To begin this session, I would like to invite Mr. Mukundan to give his opening remarks and please take the session forward. Over to you, sir.
Good morning. Some energy in the morning. Good morning. This is India at 100, so we need a lot more energy. You got to take India to 100, right? Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, let me just say that it's an honor to have Mr. Ajay Piramal. Ajay, as we call him fondly, here to deliberate and dwell upon the theme of this session. What do I know? Personally, he's connected in two ways to me, personally. One is he's the Dean of Board of Advisors of Harvard, and Harvard continues to make strides in getting good people out. And secondly, he's also on the board of my parent company, Tata Sons. In more than that, he's an industrialist, a philanthropist. One of the things he was mentioning, which I found, is the Piramal Foundation works in all 100 aspirational districts. It's probably the only foundation in India which works in all 100 districts. And on top of that, they also have uh, touched today over 125 million people through the work they do, a work which they do in digitalization, inclusion, empowerment, women and youth. And more recently, I've had absolute pleasure in announcing that we used to run a program called India at 75, which actually formed the genesis at that point when we framed how would India look when it hit that period. And really, a lot of the programs which CII did, including the uh, issues related to moving the inclusion agenda, moving the diversity agenda, moving the growth agenda, were all done. And in fact, was delivered. Most of the vision was delivered when we celebrated Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. And at the end of it, I think CI thought through this whole period that as we have done this India at 75, and as we transition to India under the blueprint of 25-year vision, needed to be get ready. It had to be an extensive pan-India exercise, getting ideas from over 1.5 million people. And there's an institutional knowledge CII has got through its membership, through its far-reaching outreach, that how do we implement this national vision for future, which has to be both inclusive, sustainable, and address the issues of the growth of the nation. And in that regard, absolutely delighted, CI is absolutely delighted to have Ajay in you, a great leader who would lead this India at 100 Foundation to set new benchmarks in social good and also take India forward to becoming a developed, inclusive economy. So, with he's made initially it was supposed to be a conversation, but he's worked hard to prepare a fantastic presentation. So, we look forward to the presentation and we'll have the interaction later on. Over to you, Ajay.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mukundan, for your very kind words. The CII had set a very high standard when India at 75 was established, and so many recommendations of the CII, where all of you all work together to see, was implemented by the government. So I was really very, very hesitant to take over this because with such a track record of what uh, CII did at India at 75, what to do at 100 would be a challenge. But somehow or the other, I was forced into it. And it's going to be, I think, the next 25 years, the Amrit Kal is going to be a very exciting journey for India. We are already the fifth largest economy. I think in the next, by 2029, probably we should be the third largest. So only the US and China would be ahead of us, would be ahead of Germany and Japan. And as was put in the first slide, by 2047, we should be a $40 billion economy. But there is one thing I thought that whilst we are developing a lot, there are another aspect of India which, if we were to look at and see what's happening over there, and this is the, if I may say, the bottom 25 percentile of the country, the population. The reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of work is going on in business, on industry, in the services sector, what we can do. But this is another area which we all also need to look at. And I thought with this uh, August audience, I would just share with you. So the bottom quartile of India are the 112 aspirational districts. These are districts which were identified by the Honorable Prime Minister for the first time in 2017 when he said that we need to look at that. In addition to this, there are parts of these 112 districts are tribal districts. Some of them are flood prone, other them are border districts. I mean, just give you an example. You know, the largest district in the aspirational districts is Jaisalmer, which on its own is larger than the state of Kerala. Or there are districts which are cut off in Assam, for instance, for 4 or 5 months. They float away because of the floods, and there's no way to access them other than through boats. So these are challenges which many of us who live in cities are not even aware of. And if this is not a very interesting and not a very good figure to read, but if these 112 districts, which constitute for more than 200 million people, were to form a separate country, then we would be ranked, only these districts would be ranked 185 out of 190 countries in the world. So this is where it's a very different India. And the sad part is that not much attention was being given to them. And if we see that if these districts were to have a growth of even 2% in their economic growth, in their GDP of these districts alone, it would contribute to 4 lakh crores for the country. I thought I would just share with you what has been the role of philanthropy ever since the beginning of independence. In the early days, government did not have money, and what philanthropists do, they would set up schools, they would set up hospitals, because this is what was needed by the uh, population. This continued till 1980. That's the time when NGOs became more prominent. NGOs started demanding rights, and then we had policy interventions done. You had, the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, the right to education. A lot of these things were done during the till 1980, till 2000. After 2000 was the scheme-based delivery, where government started making different schemes for delivery. Now, the question is, what is it in the future? I want to just spend a little time with you on showing what the government today is spending almost 48 lakh crores in terms of areas of health, education, and all the social aspects, and 15% of our GDP. Yet, on the SDG, the Sustainable Development Criteria, which the government, which globally it is, India is still lagging behind. And these numbers are not very, very good. In education, for instance, the gross enrollment ratio, the SDG target is 50, and we are just half of it. Similarly, in maternal mortality, where we should have just 70 deaths uh, during labor per thousand. We are still much higher at 113. Similarly, in the safe drinking water for the rural population, 100% should have it. That's what the SDG says. We are only at 50%. So, in every aspect, India, in spite of being the fifth largest economy, in spite of the government spending 48 lakh crores, and in spite of so much work being done, why are we still behind? That is a question which we at CII should think of. And I think that's where we need to look at why are we not able to deliver? One of the things that we find in India is that we are still used to the British way of governance. During the rule of the British Empire, there were only two things that what the government wanted to do. One is to collect taxes, and therefore the head of the district is called the collector, because his job was only to collect taxes. And the second one was to police, and that's why you have a magistrate. So either it's a collector or magistrate. But those are not the structures that we need today, and we need to think about it. We don't need policing, you don't need revenue, whether you're doing health, whether you're doing education. And therefore, we find that there are certain things that you go under the surface, and we need to understand what is the real reason behind why, in spite of all the efforts, I think the government and so many other civil organizations doing, why we've not been able to deliver what we should. Why are we behind? And this is what we've been working on it for some time, and some thoughts I thought we will take. Sustainable change, in our view, is only possible if we apply a systems thinking to it. What is wrong systemically? And what are the challenges today? I want to just spend a few minutes with you. One is in the community systems, there is a poor interdepartmental coordination. What do I mean by that? Today, if there's a girl child who needs to be educated, there are 17 different departments of the government that will be working on it. So it is not only in the Ministry of Education, you will have the Women and Child Development, you will have the health, you will have sanitation, you will have, name it, minorities, tribal health, so many other things come. And there is no coordination between the different ministries because we have not been structured like that. And therefore, there is a poor coordination between this. This is in community systems. Then let's look at information systems. Everything is manual in today's world, which is itself a challenge. Can you imagine a district education officer who's a government employee needs to fill up 500 reports every month? And that also all done manually. I mean, today, when we are sitting here, you can't even imagine what that means. So, how much time is spent on that? Besides that, there is no project management. Talent systems are another thing. We all talk about talent. We all of us are in business, talk about how talent is important, how training is important, development is important. But there is no such thing in the government system. Taking the example again of education, you have a district education officer. A district education officer is today overlooking 1,000 schools in the district. The person has about 10,000 teachers and 2 lakh students, and he or she is supervising all of these people. And it is only by sheer seniority that you reach. So you're a senior principal, a headmaster, you become a district education officer. And you have between 6 months to 24 months at the maximum in the role. How can you do it? I mean, frankly, we all know that in the first year you need to learn your job. So these are not people who are made out of heaven. So this is a problem. Or look at what happens we talk about diversity, equity. Let's look at in tribals in India today, we are insensitive to any traditional system of tribals. If for tribals, the Ayush ministry does not even recognize a tribal leader. And it is so difficult, the problem in tribal areas. You will be surprised. I had the honor of meeting our honorable president, who is a tribal. She comes from Orissa, and she became president at 64 age. She told me that in my village, I am the oldest living person. Can you imagine at 64, you're the oldest living person? A tribal person's average longevity is 11 years less than the rest of us who live in other cities. So it is so bad in India itself, and tribals form about 8% of our population. So, what can we do? I'm trying to present an alternative, what is possible to do, and I'll leave it to you to see. So, first is on convergence, and I will explain to you what we have tried to do in this, give you an example of that, and collaboration together. Similarly, how we can bring in digitization in government with the existing systems, and what can be done on governance. So in all these areas, I'm just going to share with you one example that has been done. I do believe that if we work together in partnership with government, in partnership with all civil society, all NGOs together, I think India can be nearly achieving the sustainable development goals by 2030. Though we are at half of that, I think the task is just too big for any one, either the government to do it on its own, and it's too big for any foundation to do it on its own. And therefore, collaboration is what is needed. So, how do we strengthen the government? Because the largest NGO in the country is the government. If it spends 48 lakh crores, nobody else can, all the foundations together cannot spend even a fraction of that. So, what are the critical things that can be done? I'm going to share with you a few examples that is possible to do. One is on convergence. We worked, our foundation worked in, this is an example of 29 aspirational districts, which we did to improve institutional delivery. As you know, that is very critical to ensure that infant mortality and maternal mortality is reduced. So institutional delivery is there. Today, all over India, we have 89% is institutional delivery. This is the focus of the government. But in the aspirational districts, it's just 42%. I think in collaboration with, we have about 1,200 NGOs who work with us. We could see that across, we did workshops, we had 22,000 people. Just this is, I'm giving you statistics for last 2 years that we trained, and the institutional delivery actually went up from 42% to 62%. And the best part is actually there is so much of funds available in the government. You don't need to put that much. We got, for the amount of money we spent, 10x was the return in the first year itself, when government itself put in 100 plus crores for this. So what I'm trying to say is that it is possible for us to do it if we partner with government. I'll give you another example. Niti Aayog, the aspirational districts program in 2017 was started by Niti Aayog. The Prime Minister had done it. And we were working on it in two areas, education and health. And this was a study which Niti did after a few years. They had a Harvard Business School team do it. And this is what they found, that out of the top 10 districts in education, four of these were where our foundation worked because we worked on the ground. I think in this place, just like what CII did in 75, India at 75, and you have to work in partnership with government and you have to give all the credit to government. But here it made a significant difference in school learning levels. Similarly, in health, 3 out of the top 10 districts. So, what I'm trying to say is again that if we work together, we can get results. In we think about Bihar as probably not the best state in governance, not the best state in facilities, but again, change is possible in this. In Bihar, in the state hospitals, after having worked together, those hospitals are frankly today, thanks to a lot of the digitization that's going on, there are now, let's say there's a command and control center. There are IoT devices put on each and every hospital, each and every equipment in the hospitals. It's seen in the command and control center. And therefore, what you find is that there's much more active participation of the people. Issues are being solved. And again, this is now done in Bihar, in all the 39 districts of Bihar, and government is spending all the money. You just show them, you demonstrate to them, work hand in hand with them, and they have put in 200 plus crores already and UP is also following it. So, in other words, change is possible. This is another example again of developing leadership. This is the first time I can tell you that government in many places is now not promoting people only on seniority, but also on the basis of what is their potential and what is their capability and performance. And again, this was a defunct organization of the Rajasthan state, and they revived it after we showed them what is possible. And again, 10x, you can see several times multiple of what you spend is what the government is willing to put side by side with you. And in this, I just give you the example of this district, Junjunu, which was actually, there was a concern in Junjunu a few years ago before we started working that the public schools, the government schools would have to shut down because nobody was going to it. And we must recognize that people who are even in the lowest economic strata, everybody wants in India, one thing is for sure, all of us want that our children go get the best possible education. So, because public schools were so not good, people would send them to private schools. And for a average person, their cost annual income, almost 30% would go in towards school fees and other things in schools. So government spends much more on public schools than anybody. If you know the salaries of public schools teachers are much higher than that of private. But they were shutting down. We started working with government, and today Junjunu was the first in Rajasthan, and it was the second in the national assessment survey done by the government. In fact, you talk about Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao program of the government. This was, again, it was the best district in the country. Prime Minister came and also applauded it then. So, similarly, in tribal communities, let me say that in tribal communities, most of the people, the first point of call for a tribal is to go for a tribal healer. 60% want to be treated of the population, want to be treated by tribal healer. But there is no certification. Even the Ayush Ministry, as I said, does not recognize it. And therefore, there are many good tribal healers. On the other hand, there are many, many who are quacks. So, how do you do this certification? The government had done 500 tribal certification over 10 years. But I think after an initiative that we took along with the ministry, this was done in an 18-month period, just 500, which means that now people are feeling that there is their own community, the tribal, and there have been there are cures possible, that they are now seeing the benefits of that as well. And again, I mean, the money that's available with government is lot, and therefore you can leverage it a lot more. I just want to share with you data which is quite startling, at least when I saw it, and I thought I'll share it with you. Can you imagine the population of Pune is 73 lakh people, and the population in the 112 aspirational districts is 25 crores or 250 million people. And I just want to show the amount of CSR funding that goes into uh, per year for Pune. For 73 lakhs people, we contribute, all of us, 257 crores for Pune alone. And for the 112 districts, which is 250 million people, we give only 472 crores. So that is the difference. That is, we are now looking at two different Indias. And we cannot have in a Viksit Bharat such a wide difference between the two. So therefore, the per person CSR in an aspirational district is 2 rupees per year. That is the benefit we are doing. So, if we talk about Amrit Kal, a whole generation dedicated to freedom emerged, a thought developed in the country that whatever has to be done, it should be done for freedom. It should be done now. This was the time of the freedom movement. And as the Prime Minister says, similarly today, every individual, every institution, every organization must move forward with the pledge that whatever I do, it should be for a Viksit Bharat. And we can't have a Viksit Bharat if such a large part of our population is left behind. And therefore, I think it requires all of us at CII to provide. We are all here leaders. Let's provide that leadership. Let's channelize our CSR investments to areas where they are most needed. We need to augment job creators over there, participate in collaborative efforts, and then hence strengthen the holistic development of Bharat. Thank you.
It's already on. Yeah. So, fantastic, Ajay. I think it's been a great presentation. In fact, we thought this would be interactive to probe the way forward. You already put the way forward. So, I think a lot of thinking has already gone, and for that, a big round of applause because it really makes our journey much, much easier. Uh, the way I absorbed this whole thing, while we will be coming to you as an audience, so I think this we'll also take on some suggestions from you because this is going to be an inclusive process. This while this is the draft plan, but I think any great suggestion which should be included in this. The way I've sort of looked at it, you actually demonstrated it can be done through the foundation you're running, and it looks like scale is the only thing we are missing. And you're saying let's all join this journey and move forward. But going back to the point when you started the journey, it would be a large mindset shift. I'm sure you would have had that battle about how do you shift the mindset? How do you sort of get people to sort of even visualize to move forward? When you mentioned that the Our president is the only one, the oldest woman alive. It was such a shocking information for me to receive here. Uh, how did you achieve that within your own organization? Let's go back to that piece.
So, fortunately, we have people in our organization who are really rooted to the ground. We have actually 5,000 people working in the foundation, and it's a working foundation. We don't actually allocate funds only. We want to work because according to us, work is important. And the actually the let's say the origin was we believe that at the end of the day, it is leadership that is important, and young people can make the difference. So we started what is a fellowship called the Gandhi Fellowship, where we take uh, people who have either done a graduate or a postgraduate, and they work with us for 2 years. We train them on the ground in actually the most difficult parts of rural India. And then they are free to do whatever they want. We do a stipend during that 2 year period. But in the beginning, this was started in 2010, 2008, sorry, was the time when there was only 10, 11 people came to us, and everybody was worried that what will we do? These are highly educated people. And, that will they get a job? What will they do? Are they mad? Their parents. And I remember the first time I met the parents, I said, we'll give a job to everybody who comes. But today, we are now recruiting this year about 600 people, and we have about 10,000 kids
You
applying.
can clap. I mean, it's a wonderful influence. I mean, this is
So it is no, the beauty is that there are so many young people who are willing to give to their country 2 years of their time. So when these people were working, we realized that then when they were working in the districts, that we could bring out change. And therefore, this is the evolutionary program, actually.
fantastic. I think it's a great point. I'm going to come to the audience, and is there anybody who's got suggestions, point? Yeah, please go ahead, sir. Introduce yourself and
Hello, check. So my name is Commander VK Jetli. I am from IIT Kharagpur. There are 213 tribal villages in the vicinity of IIT Kharagpur. I am connected with IIT Kharagpur even today as advisor with some departments, so I keep going there. Out of those 213 villages, IIT Kharagpur has done nothing actually, if you ask me, during last 74 years. Some lipstick work, NSS students go there, थोड़ा पढ़ाई कर दिया, ये कर दिया, छोटा मोटा काम, but nothing substantial. Now, IIT Kharagpur Alumni Foundation has decided to adopt 75 villages there in the nearby area, tribal villages. Why 75? Because we are celebrating our platinum jubilee next year. So let us do something. देर से जागे जागे तो सही कम से कम. And we have started the work there, sir. I will, if your foundation also can join hands to bring up those 75 villages in the beginning and then 213 all of them later.
Yeah, we'll connect. I think, first of all, congratulations for doing that. But I'll give you an example of. Do you know that just like an hour out of Mumbai, Thane and Palghar, that's a tribal district. We don't even realize that. There is so much of prosperity at one side, and you just go out for an hour, hour and a half, and you'll find that there's tribal area.
Correct. Yes.
That is India.
And this tribal area starts within 2 kilometers from IIT Kharagpur. Within just 2 kilometers.
Exactly.
Yes.
So there you are.
That's really unfortunate. और उनका प्रॉब्लम बाय द वे सर आप एज के बारे में बोल रहे थे द ओल्डेस्ट मैन इन द नियर बाई विलेज इज अराउंड 110 years and there was no casualty during covid in that complete area because of their maybe local medicines whatever they have, no casualty during covid. Thank you, sir.
this is someone here on this side.
Sir, my name is Harish Joshi. I retired from railways about 10 years back, and I am working in the private sector in a company called Lal Baba Seamless Tubes in Calcutta. My company also does CSR work, and I am directly or indirectly, I am sometimes looking after it. But today's talk from you was an eye opener, sir. And I think a little shift in focus from CII. I mean, not in focus. I mean, you are already doing so much of work. It just needs a refocusing by the people who are spending CSR money only only on education and health, as you said. Our company is also doing the same. We are only making some either old age homes or uh, some schools and things like that. But going to the grassroots, what you mentioned is really an eye opener. That should be the focus area. And CII have regional offices. They should give a mandate or a guideline of those districts and the villages and the focus areas where you would like the companies to go and work. And I'm sure we can do that. All of us are, we know our country is there is a bottom of the pyramid which is not being looked after, and we all have a responsibility for that. We are all willing, but this this information or this knowledge has to come to everyone to be able to understand and take it forward. So I would request CII to publish a special paper region wise where you can identify those districts, those programs where the companies on in that area can focus their effort in that direction. I think a little shift in focus can make a lot of difference. Thank you, sir.
No, that's exactly why CII at 100 is looking at this. But I just want to, in addition, y'all are doing a lot. But rather than building schools and hospitals, that the government is willing to do, they have the funding. I think we have to try and make these systemic changes. If you make the systemic changes, the impact is much more. So you spend 5 crores on a hospital or 1 crore on a hospital, but if you can spend that same money in making systemic change, then it can be 10 or 20 times the effort, the benefit. So let's look at, that's why I think we should try and shift our thinking from just uh, um, uh, building infrastructure to actually see how we can influence much more.
There's someone at the back, right? Yeah. Can someone take the mic there?
Mr. Piramal, yeah.
Yeah,
My
you
name
go.
is Srivat Ram.
Go ahead.
Maybe you can come here.
We
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
see you. Can you?
So my name is Srivat Ram. I've been working both personally and one CSR came as my company with fairly backward regions in terms of both education and also agriculture with marginal farmers. One of the challenges that we find is while the government spends a lot on education, absenteeism is a big issue. So actually, we spend money on supplementary education, working with NGOs and getting on supplementary education. My question was, in the amazing work that you've done, have you been able to find a way in which the engagement from the education people in the government schools has that increased? Is that also a challenge that you face?
No, actually, it has significantly increased. And my colleague is here, Manmohan, who's done a lot of work on education. He can actually share with you. He works in the aspirational districts and in education. I gave you the example of Junjunu. There was actually a lot of dropout of school. But how do you bring them back? That is possible to do. And please just catch up with him and we'll be very happy. So again, the beauty in at least all such activities should be there's no IP. It is open for all of us and each one of us will learn from the other. That's why we work in actually with about 1200 NGOs. They may be small or big, that doesn't matter.
Thank you.
We'll come. We'll come to everyone. Yeah. So just
Morning, sir. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I could see the power of data in the presentation. So that is something we are all aiming for. we work in educational institutions in our tech business education. We also started working with government schools. One thing I found is, which is a challenge, you showed the talent management challenge and things like that. We work with the Navi Mumbai Municipality Corporation, and government had spent money on that. That's not a problem. Project funding is available. One challenge we found is the talent management. If you put a separate project manager, it's a cost. So how do we empower these school teachers or somebody who can take ownership on the softwares put in on all the smart class and all those things? Do we need to find some solution where empower each of the schools so that the technology part is taken care, digital adoption is taken care, so that we get a lot of data and things like that?
We have tried doing that. I spoke about the Gandhi Fellows. I'll just give you what they would do. One Gandhi Fellow, who's like a 20-year-old kid, would actually be like a part time executive assistant to 5 headmasters in different public government schools. And that brought about the change. I mean, I didn't go into that much detail, but why did, say, Junjunu become the second best district in education in the country was because of this change with the same people, without any new, nothing changing. So it is possible to do. Again, Manmohan will be able to share with you more details, or you just connect and we'll be happy to actually invite you to see what is happening on the ground.
Can you hold on? There's a lady at the back who's been standing. Can you get the mic to her?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll come back here, sir.
Hi, sir. Hina this side. Uh, I'm working with NCP EDP. It's an organization where we work on the inclusion for the cross disability. So, firstly, thank you so much for the presentation and diving deeper on the social impact issue, which helps us in empowering India. So, as we, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
So, given that
Just speak in the mic, please.
So, given that India is the world's fifth largest economy, why is the disability sector is still viewed as a charity, not an investment? So, I just wanted to understand that. Do you think so that disability is still an investment or a charity? That's what I wanted to know.
No, I think it's an investment. Let me tell you that uh, I'm not just talking words, but we are actually now doing a whole new program on disability with kids with disability. We have started that, and one of the big challenges of disability, as you probably know, is that when they grow up, the biggest fear is with parents, that who will look after my child after I pass away. And so we are working a lot on that, and hopefully we'll come to some, at least some progress we'll make. I don't know how much we'll do. It's in early stages, only last 2 years we are working.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you so
take
much.
last two questions. There is the colleague here. Can you stand up again? Uh,
Manmohan,
Manmohan, can you stand up?
Manmohan. Huh.
Yeah, because he's here. He's going to be here. You can reach out. Ajay has to leave, but we'll take last two questions. Yeah. I, yeah, please reach the, who's got the mic? And can you give one here in the front too? Huh? Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, this is Ishan Shah from Nitya and Safe. We are into wastewater recycling, and we are currently recycling South Gujarat's 0.95%, which is our 95% total plant recycling. सर राजस्थान जो आपने डिस्ट्रिक्ट की बात की है वहाँ पे सैनिटेशन और वाटर पर कैपिटा वाटर अवेलेबिलिटी जो है वो काफ़ी कम हो गई है सो इट हैज़ रिड्यूस ड्रास्टिकली सो हम लोगों ने एक प्रोग्राम बनाया था कि ब्लू कोलैबोरेशन वी कैन हैव द ब्लू कोलैबोरेशन प्रोग्राम because per capita water availability is decreased by 75% since 1951. By that, CSR funds can be a major role so that that water can be channelized to agriculture, which is 83% of the total water demand in Rajasthan district. So this area can also be figured out. Uh, any comments from you, sir?
नहीं, water is the biggest challenge going forward. इसलिए जो अपना जल जीवन है and this. So again, we are also trying to work in that because people are affected. जितना पानी से और shortage पानी की होगी तो फिर देश कैसे चलेगा आगे, ये issue तो है ही.
So we can reutilize this treated
Yes.
sewage
Yeah.
into agriculture. So that can be a diversion of
Yeah.
raw water to
Yeah.
it.
So, first of all, I think it was a great presentation. You are doing great work. I want to know, uh, is the foundation doing anything on improving female workforce participation, which reduced from 31% to 24% in last 20 years? I'm a professor from ISB. Thank
So
you.
we are doing a lot on that as well. In fact, even in our own business, we have, let's say, branches, retail branches, which we do lending business. So now many of the branches are actually all female led, but our foundation has got one fellowship which is called the Karuna Fellowship, where we take ladies. Most of them are like they are not highly educated or anything, and they are ladies who have probably, some of them are married, some of them are single mothers, some of and we take them, we train them, and then make them employable, and that is a big program of ours as well, because I think at the end of the day they make the most difference. And when you set these examples, especially in rural communities, a lot of people then follow it. So it's called a Karuna Fellowship. Actually, y'all could look at, I mean, just go on the net, you will find Gandhi Fellowship, Karuna Fellowship. You'll get a little more details about it. We have shortage of time, otherwise I can go on this as well.
Yeah, thank you, Ajay. I think it has been a fantastic presentation. I can tell you there are so many inspired people, their hands going up even now. I think you really got people excited by your presentation. But I think the central message are threefold, which is we need to converge, we need to collaborate, and also use power of digital. Lastly, I think is what you've done is to use the government money as force multiplier. Really, you wanted to say, let's make a systemic change. And I was just doing a mental math. We have 6,000 members, 1 crore per member, 6,000 crore. I mean, even I'm just saying an average. I'm some big and small. By your multiplier of 10 as an average, 10 was a low figure. The highest figure was 17. It's 60,000 crore. Imagine the kind of impact we can do. Manmohan, I wish you all the luck in sort of pushing this agenda. We would basically what the message from Ajay is, if CI membership can come together, there was a suggestion, we really can start to shift the needle because there seems to be a pathway available. And we are so excited. And thank you for the leadership of India at 100. Big round of applause for a fantastic presentation.
Thank you, speakers, for such an engaging discussion. I now call upon Mr. Mukundan to kindly felicitate Mr. Piramal with a token of our appreciation. Request our speakers to please pose for a photo opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to a close for this session. I request you all to kindly stay seated as our next session will begin immediately.